Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the next instruction set, that is branch instructions. So in the branch instructions, we have two different types of instruction. They are jump instruction and the call instruction. So first we will be looking at the jump instruction. The syntax of jump instruction is JMP with an address location. So now we know that the program will be sequentially executed in this particular manner with IP getting incremented. With IP getting incremented. So now when IP gets incremented, now the program is sequentially executed like this. After this, it has to go back to a label where we have written jump down. So the label I have written is down in this format. That is a colon preceding the colon to the down statement. So generally we write a label. So how it is going to work? How the jump program is going to work? Actually, we need an address, but as we are not aware of, physically not aware of the particular address in the program, where the program is stored in the memory. So rather than writing the addresses, now we'll write some labels. So here at some instructions, we want to jump to some other instruction in the same program. Next to the instruction jump, we write the label. So simply a label is marked with down with a column. Here I have written the label as down. So now the assembler which is going to convert this instruction into a machine language substitutes the upward for this particular jump, and this address of the down is substituted in the down label. Okay. So the moment when this instruction is fetched, that is jump instruction is fetch, the IP is pointing towards this particular address. But the moment the instruction is fetched, now what will happen? Now I'll take a condition saying that if there is no jump statement, if there is no jump, then what IP will be doing? The moment it fetch, now IP will get incremented automatically. So this is the way that it will be followed up. So in sequential manner, IP will get incremented. But because we have written jump down, now IP will get the address of the label down. So who contains, the question over is who contains the address of the next instruction? The IP contains here, the IP contains the address of the next instruction. As you know, because IP will be getting incremented the moment we fetch the address, we fetch the instruction. So now here it means the moment the instruction gets executed, the IP will be getting the address of the down, which is a label address, which is in the same program. So because this address is placed in the IP. This address is placed in the IP. So suppose now if the down address is is 7,000, then IP will get the 7,000 entries. So the moment the instruction goes into the jump down, so the next instruction address will be incremented with, or the IP will get, or the IP will be substituted with a 7,000 address. So the next program will be executed from the 7,000 onwards. So it's all about the jump instruction. Now the next instruction what we have seen in this particular thing is call. Now a call instruction is used to call a function, or we call it as a subroutine. It is used to call a function or a subroutine. So when we want to call a subroutine, we'll write an instruction call but not jump. Now if we write jump, what happens? If we write a jump, what happens? Now we'll take the same case where I'll write a call. See, the program is executed in this manner. So in between this program I have written a call to the sub. So what will happen? This is the program starting and ending. So when I call, the program will go like this. It will call the subroutine sub, and it will execute this program sequentially, and it will return to this particular the same program with a return instruction. Now if I write in the place of call a jump, now what it happens, what it will do means, the program will go to a new location called sub. Still, if I write sub, the program will go to the new function called sub. It will execute the subroutine, and it will not return to the actual program, because a function will return to its own program only when we use a call. So if I write a jump, it will not return to the actual program. So, but when we write a call, we are very clear that we want to come back, that is to the instruction. We want to come back to this particular program. Where do you want to come back? It will not come back to the same address, but we will come back to the next instruction. Why will be coming back to the next instruction? If I come back to the same instruction, the call will be a repeated one. That is, it will be forming a loop, and it will be executed infinitely. So where will it come back? We have said it will be coming back to the next instruction. So who has this instruction? IP will have this instruction. So when the instruction called sub, when this instruction called sub is being fetched, the IP points to this particular instruction. When this call statement gets executed, it will be pointing to the IP will be getting incremented, and After this, the subroutine will be called, and the subroutine will be executed in this sequential manner. And we already know that whereas call statement, it will get back to the original program, but not to the same IP address, but to the IP address of the next instruction. So even the processor does know. If I say a call statement, if the processor does know that, it will not be. We have to come back to the actual program. So here now, what is happening? IP contains the return address. Here, IP contains the return address. So for our further reference, we'll say the return address as RA. So here, the IP contains the return address. So if it is an ordinary instruction, what happens? If it is an ordinary instruction, the IP will be getting incremental. Like ordinary instructions means something like move or increment. All these instructions will get the next address and it will be sequentially executed. But if a call instruction is given, MUPI knows that it has to go to the subroutine. That is, it knows that it has to put the subroutine address into the IP. So if I say now, for an elaboration, I'll draw the same thing again. Now we say if it has to go to the subroutine, because I have given a call statement, if it has to go to the subroutine, now what it has to do? It has to leave the return address. After it is being executing, it has to leave the return address. Now if I leave the return address, if we leave the return address, what happens? After completion of the subroutine, will not be able to return to the actual program. So we will not be able to return to the actual program. But now how can I leave this? Because if I don't leave this, I cannot go to the subroutine called sub and execute this particular program. So to get this, to go to the next subroutine, what it has to do? It has to store this particular return address, that is IP address, into stack. So to put this address into the stack, we use the instruction called push. So it occupies, as it is a 16-bit address, it occupies two different locations. So that is, if it is the stack, this is the stack. So what it, if there is filled up with some data, the RA will be filling up at the top of the stack. So it will be having two different locations, that is higher byte in this and lower byte in this particular instruction. So stack will be filled with RAH and RAL in this particular fashion. So by doing this, MUPI has secured the return address into the stack. Now very simply, it will put the subroutine address into the IP and goes to the subroutine and starts executing the subroutine sequentially by incrementing the IP. The moment it sees a return, now what does return say? Return says when we want to come back. When we want to come back. So what does it not say? When we want to come back, but where to come back? But where to come back? Now, can we write the return address in return instruction? Can we write the return address directly in the return instruction? We cannot, because the call may be anywhere in this particular program. The call function may be, the call instruction may be called anywhere in this particular program. If I fix this return address and give it in the return, then the address may not be suitable for where I have called. So the return address should be exact address. Then only I can execute the actual program and will get the correct result. If I give the return address fixed in the return statement, in the return instruction, then the return address may be random, and we may not be able to actually run through the program and execute it properly. Clear? So therefore, automatically it gets, if I give it in a stack, automatically it gets you to the correct address or correct position. Like something like in a C program, what we will be writing it is, in the C program, we know that we will be calling a function. We write the name of the function, but while we are coming out, we will not write, but simply give the closing bracket. So as it is in the closing bracket in C program, here it is the return instruction. Thus the information of the go back is stored somewhere. Yes, that information is stored in the stack. Now, how will this MUP gets the return address? So the stack has to push, the pack has to give the address back to the IP. That is, the return address should be given from the stack to the IP. This is done by the pop instruction. This is done by the pop instruction. After getting the return address, the program will be executed sequentially. So here we have taken two different cases. They are jump and call, where jump will not return back to the program. It will be executed sequentially. It will go to the next address and it will get executed sequentially. But in the call, we'll return back to the, we'll be returning to the next instruction and we'll be executing it sequentially. So there are two different types of branch instructions. That is jump and call instructions, which they will be performed in two different ways. They are intra-segment branch instruction and inter-segment branch instruction. Intra means it is in the same segment. That is, the program or the instruction what we are writing, the label what we are writing is in the same program. Inter means the label, what we are going to give is not in the same segment. If it is not in the same segment, what I have to store? I have to store two different values. The two different values are, if it is not in the same segment, then we have to move into the stack or put into the stack both code segment address and offset address, that is IP address. So both the things have to be put into the stack. But these two can be defined, or I can call them as near segments, that is intra, or far segments, they are intra segments. So these can be called as two different things. They are near segments and far segments also. So now Now we'll go deep into the methods of looping. The methods of looping. So there are two different. Now call has no other looping, so it has jump has the methods of looping. So there are two jumps. They are conditional jumps. Conditional jumps. Second one is unconditional jumps. Unconditional jumps. So here, if you remember about the go-to statement and if statements, go-to and if statements, most probably we might be using if as a conditional. We use in all the programs if statement, but rarely we use go-to statement. Go-to statement is a unconditional jump, and if statement is a conditional jump. Now, there are different types of jumps. There, we'll try to give only a few. As we are going to do the programs, we learn in the programs what are the different types of jumps. The jumps are B, C, jump if carry, that implies CF is equal to 1. Jump if no carry, that implies no carry, where CF is equal to 0. Now if we add two different numbers and we may get a carry, or there may not be a carry. Now if I get a carry, you go to the next instruction. If I don't get a carry, we will go to the next instruction. This is all about the significance of the carry function. Now there is one more thing. Jump if 0, ZZ, jump if no 0. That implies it is 0, no 0. That implies ZF is equal to 1, ZF is equal to 0. Now if you are doing a loop where the looping condition is kept in CX register, we know that CX register will have a count. So looping condition is kept in a CX register. Continue the loop till the time CX register will become 0. Then ZF will be set. So in this, if I count the CX register until I get in the CX register that is equal to 0, the result in the CX register is equal to 0. Then ZF will be set. Then it will jump to the next instruction. So in the same fashion, we have ZPE or ZPO, that is parity even, PF is equal to 1, parity odd, PF is equal to 0. So even parity and odd parity. So in the same fashion, we have one more instruction. One more thing we will do: jump if overflow flag. So OF will be equal to 1. Jump if no overflow, that is no overflow, that is OF will be equal to 0. If you carefully observe in all the instructions what we have written, they function upon the flag register. That is, they are based upon the flags, the affected flags. Now we'll see. We'll use the conditional jumps and learn the methods of looping. So we use loops to achieve results. So we need to create loops. All big programs or small programs put in a loop. The simplest way of writing a program is the jump instruction. That is unconditional jump. It gives us an infinite loop. So something like, first method of looping is infinite loop. That is writing unconditional jump. Unconditional jump. So what I will be writing is, I am writing a program like this, and there is a label called back. Now here I am going to write jump back. So I have written simply a jump instruction with a syntax with jump instruction with a label called back. So the program is executing like this. After getting to this jump, it will move like this. It will go. Again the program gets incremented, IP gets incremented, again it is rotating and it is forming a infinite loop. So where it is used? Now whether infinite loops are used or not, we have to get it clear. Now the best example is digital watch. Digital watch. So what I will be doing is initialize the digital watch, that is initialize with hours, minutes and seconds with all 0 zeros. Now after 60 seconds it will go back to 0 0 and this will be incremented 1. After again 16 hours it will be 0 2. So this will be finding a infinite loop. Now after 60 minutes what it will be doing? It will be going back to say 0 1. So after 24 hours it will again come back to 0 0. So what I am doing, is this only the day that we will be having only 24 hours, the next day will not have the 24 hours? Surely it will have the 24 hours. So it forms a infinite loop. There are many examples like air traffic control works on an infinite loop. Internal routers, so internet routers works on infinite loop. They will never be equal to 0. So unconditional jumps are used, and then we have given some examples about the unconditional jumps. So second one is finite loop using JNZ instruction. JNZ instruction. So we are using jump if not 0. Now I'll take an example to explain this one. The example is, it is a finite loop. Now what I will say is, I have written a program and I am trying to execute this one. So there is a back label. Now at this particular instruction I have written it is jump back. But I want to write an iteration. I want to have 6 different iterations. I want to have 6 different iterations. After the 6th iteration, it has to come out of the loop. So what I will be writing here, I will be placing this move BL. I can take any register to count this 6H. Now this move BL06 should not be placed inside this particular loop, but should be placed outside this particular loop. Why it has to place outside this particular loop? Because if I place it here, it will be having an infinite one. So we have to place this loop out of this one. Now what I will be doing over here is, I will write after this, I'll write after the loop executed, at the end I'll write decrement BL. Now I'll not write a jump back. If I write a jump back, what it is doing, it is giving me a infinite loop. Rather than what I'll be doing, I'll be writing as ZNG back. That is jump if not 0. So the moment decrement BL comes, what it will be doing, it will give 5th loop. Now after JNG back, so this will not get executed, but this will be that statement that we are writing, that is jump if not 0. It will again execute and go with 4th iteration. Again execute, again execute, again execute 1. The moment it sees 0, then it comes out of the loop. and it will executing the program sequentially. So the question is, how many times an 8-bit register can have an iteration? So I said it is BL, move BL06. So the maximum, the largest number I can store in the BL register is F. So I can have 255 different iterations carried on in the program. Now there's a classical question of Viva which we will be answering. Okay. Now the question is something like this. The question is, now without changing this entire program, I want to have 256 iterations. I want to have 256 iterations. How can I change this one? There is no, nothing is there that is which makes us difficult in this particular program. The simplest way is, if I want to write 200, I want to have 256 iterations, I need to have modify this particular program as move BL00H. I'll erase this 06H and write it as 00H. Now what it will be doing, it will run through the program. It will go to the JNG first, it will go to the decrement BL. What is decrement BL does? 00 minus 1, which will be equal to minus 1H. In 2's complement form, it will be FFH. So after FFH, what it will be doing? It will be going back to FE and so on. So totally with 00 plus FF. So how many iterations we are having? We are having 256 iterations. Clear? So I cannot go with like if I go with the 01, I cannot go with the 257 iterations, because the moment I go with the 01H, the next iteration will be 00. So I cannot go with the next, that is 257. The maximum iterations I can go with this particular statement is only when I have 00, because minus 1 will give me minus 01H. So we'll have 256 iterations. So here the point to be remembered is decrement is done before checking the operation, that is jump if not 0. If the decrement is done anywhere in this particular program in between, if there are any arithmetic operations done in between this particular program, the flag register will be changed. Then we cannot attain this jump if not 0 to the back program. Okay, so in between this decrement BL and the instruction called jump if not 0, there should not be any arithmetic operations to be carried on. If I want to write anywhere in this particular loop this decrement BL, after this decrement BL, we have to take care such that there is no arithmetic operations which are performed between the decrement BL and the jump if not 0. If I perform any arithmetic operations, the flag registers will be changed automatically. This may not end up giving an exact solution, but it will give an absurd answer and will get a inappropriate result for our program. The next instruction, the next looping is, that is the third one, is using loop instructions. Okay, so here 8085 is the first processor, and after 3 years of 3 years, after 3 years, then came 8086. So what are the shortcomings? Shortcomings in 8085 has to be rectified in in 8086. So if you carefully look at the JNG instruction, that is jump if not zero instructions, if I want to have a finite loop, two statements are to be written. The two statements are, the first one is decrement the register, and the second one is jump if not zero to the label. This is what I will be writing. These two statements are necessary for the using JNG instruction. Now, after having 3 years of knowledge, so why we have to go with two different instructions? Rather, I will be going with only one instruction, saying that I will use CX and place this value in CX, that is 00006H. So now it will have 6 different iterations, and here I'll be writing loop back. What is loop back? That is, we are directly writing in one instruction the two different statements. That is, it does CX will be decremented by CX minus 1, and if CX is not equal to 0, then it goes back to the back label. It returns to the back label. Okay, so is it, I'm saving only one instruction in this particular step. Many people ask why if only one instruction is saved, how much time I can save. But if you carefully observe, it is not for only one iteration I'm going with 6 different iterations. For 6 different iterations, I'll be saving 6 different instructions. So for each instruction of 6 different iterations, I'll be saving 6 different time periods, time slots. Okay. So if it is 1,000 iterations, then I'll be saying 1,000. Literally, I'm saying thousands of instructions. Clear? So this is about the looping with respect to the using loop instructions. Looping with respect to looping. So there are 3 different methods of looping. One is infinite looping and the finite looping. In the finite looping, there are again divided into 2 parts. They are using jump if not zero instruction and using the loop instructions. So which is better one? What is the advantage of using J and Z? What is the advantage of using loop? Advantage and disadvantage. So I'll be going with advantages. This will be disadvantage. So using JNG, the program will be slower because 2 instruction has to be forward, or 2 instruction has to be executed. But using loop, there is only one instruction which will be executed, so it will be faster. But JNG, the program will be more flexible. By using the program will be rigid. How these statements are typed? See, while using this particular looping, using looping instruction, we have used CX register. Whatever may be the count, we have to use only CX register. Now, there is no flexibility. But in JNG instruction, using JNG instruction, I can use any type of register to flexibly count the number of instructions, number of iterations. Sorry, count the number of iterations. But in using loop instruction, this count should be invariably present in CX register itself. There is no other choice. Now, if CX register is busy with doing some other thing, then I cannot use the loop. You cannot use the loop instruction. If CX is busy with some other work, I cannot use the loop instruction. Then invariably I have to use the JNG, that is jump if not 0, 1 only. If there is no work with the CX, then I can use the loop rather than going with the JNG instruction. So that's all about the loop, that is branch instructions. There are many types of looping. There are something called, there are some other looping statements. They are, that is loop if equal, loop if 0, and loop if not equal, or loop if not 0. These two statements are similar, but only the changes is if loop if 0 means ZF should be equal to 1. Loop if not 0 means ZF should not be equal to 1, or ZF is equal to 0. That's so. Goodbye. So hope that it is useful uh, for your program. So because all the big programs are small programs which are arranged in small loops. Thank you.